I'm the Gentleman Wake. In this episode, we take a trip back to a simpler time to take a look at a collection of some of the best decks inspired by the 1980s. Plus, we announced the winner of my Room 17 deck giveaway. Remember, for the best in playing cards content, like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Well, what can I say? The 20s are off to kind of a rocky start, as I'm sure you've noticed. It all just makes me want to take a step away from the calamitous present to focus on what was for me a happier time. See, I was born in the late 1970s, which meant I got to grow up in the 80s. And yeah, the height of the Cold War brought with it some anxieties, no doubt, but there's a lot to love about the era. The music and the movies of the period have left a lasting mark on culture and influenced many modern artists and creators, even some playing card designers too. In fact, we're going to look at a few of those designs in this episode, and make sure to stay all the way to the end of this video for a chance to win a rare deck of 80s inspired playing cards. One of the clearest memories I have from my 80s childhood is the familiar video cassette, the VHS. I think I rewatched the Indiana Jones movies so many times the tapes were practically worn out. Maybe some of the best things about those tapes is that every now and then a recording surfaces, like a kind of time capsule that transports us back. I think my favorites are those 1980s dating tapes. I don't know if you've ever seen those, they're great. In fact, I recently found one of those old cassettes in a long forgotten cardboard box. The words "Dating for Card Enthusiasts" was written in Sharpie on the worn out label.
Let's get magical. Are you looking for love? My bicycle deck. Magicians need sex too.
The camera? Okay. Hi, my name is Mel. I live in Malibu.
So I was like looking at the wanted ads, and I saw that there was like this opening for like a magician's assistant.
My name is Samuel, and I would like to talk to you about magic.
I drive a Rosa. I keep it in the garage because this Quantum PI ain't playing around, right? I like the indoor jacuzzi whenever possible.
You know, like my parents used to go to Vegas, and they used to see like the David Copperfields and all that stuff. And so I was like, okay, I'll give this a try.
I think magic is the language of love. I'm looking for a woman to fulfill all my magical fantasies.
I partake in the magical arts. Everywhere I attend, except for Magic Castle, I attend in a row because I like to keep things casual.
My name's Charles. I own the comic book store up the street. The ones on the corners where all the women hang out. There ain't no women hanging out there. It's real lonely.
Now let's get one thing straight, okay? I ain't one of them, all right? I'm sure you've seen a bunch of them little pansy asses on this tape. Just because a man dabbles, just because a man experimentates, just because a man every once in a while might even enjoy it, doesn't make him a homeschool cardist.
So I put on like my tightest corset, and I showed up at the audition, and this man says to me, he says, Marla, he says, I want to split you in half. And I said, take me to dinner first, you know what I'm saying? So he pays me in cash every night that we do it. The magic show.
If you're watching this right now, let's just call a spade a spade. I'm a king looking for my queen. I ain't got time for no jokers. You dig what I'm saying, girl?
For me, having a relationship with a lady is much like this card, this queen, if you will. Because relationships are all about, slowly getting to know each other, and then finding commonalities where we can, peacefully come together.
I like collecting things. All kinds of things, really. Like playing cards. I like comic books, panties. I was just kidding. But anyway, It gets real lonely in the comic book store.
See this here jacket? This here representation of a bona fide American institution. I took this jacket fair and square from some dweeb on the other side of a poker table because he thought his jacks over tens was going to beat my straight flush. I like a lady who's not afraid to get a little wind in her hair or to put the top down on the rosa. Excuse me 1 second. Okay. Oh, hey, Sandy. How are you, Sandy? Okay. 8 p.m.? Okay. I'll pick you up. Okay. All right. Okay. I love you. Okay. What? No, I didn't say that. Okay. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.
What's my idea of a perfect date? Well, I'm glad you asked. We can crack open a bottle of wine. No, I won't put nothing in it. If things start to look hazy and blurry, it's okay. That's called love. And when you do, you gonna wake up in a dream. A dream you gonna never remember.
So if you're of the feminine persuasion and you want a real man who can move his fingers, then you need to call Dugan. Moose Dugan.
Magicians need sex too.
So remember Mel is my name, Mel from Malibu. Malibu, the quantum PI. Some folks like to call me gentleman.
Let's get magical. Are you looking for love? Bicycle deck. Magicians need sex too.
The Lady Wake and I haven't done one of those in a while. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in a comment below if you want to see some more skits peppered into the episodes. Back to the subject at hand. The first two decks I'm reviewing in this episode take a tremendous amount of inspiration from the VHS tapes of the 80s. They share a lot of things in common, as you'll soon see. Printed in 2016 by the expert playing card company, this is the VHS playing cards from collectibleplayingcards.com. With a tuck box cleverly designed to mimic a worn-out VHS cardboard sleeve, it features all of the familiar 1980s design cues. Bright and vibrant colors, block fonts, and a sideways opening tuck flap with trapezoidal thumb cutaway meant to mimic the design of actual VHS sleeves, down to the stained white label with handwritten title along the spine of the tuck. The ad copy is cleverly disguised into the design of the tuck, and the box has some other classic VHS markings like the VHS logo and information regarding runtime. The top reads Poker. I'm especially a fan of the worn out edges, which are convincingly portrayed. Opening the box reveals the VHS tape motif, of course, extends to the card backs themselves. A subtly one-way design, the backs feature an image of the typical VHS tape with a blank white label centered between the two clear windows meant to show the reels of the magnetic tape within. The long edges are flanked by a three-color ribbon of yellow, red, and light blue. The same ribbons make their way onto the front of the cards as well, although they stop short of the index. These are completely custom cards, of course, although pip placement is standard. The pips and indices, in red for the diamonds and hearts and white for the spades and clubs, feature a hand-drawn etched style that is reminiscent of colored chalk on blackboards. The background of each card is a gray graph paper-esque grid ghosted over a faintly textured black field. The Ace of Spades features a large, more intricate spade pip with the letters VHS embedded within. The court cards feature the standard bicycle design for the royalty, although here they are drawn in negative in a monochromatic light blue. There are two jokers included in the deck, a couple of color-swapped clown faces that really feel a little bit out of place here. Diving into the same well of inspiration, world-class designer Jackson Robinson and his King's Wild project take a stab at the fertile grounds of 1980s VHS inspiration with his recently released VHS 1982 playing cards deck. This deck also features a tuck box design inspired by the cardboard sleeve boxes of the VHS tapes. However, this time it's a pristine mint condition box rather than a worn out one. The deck title is presented in a very 80s logo type, and Jackson cleverly replaces a lot of the traditional ad copy found on the VHS tapes with descriptions of the playing cards within. The back includes a paraphrased Bible verse, Thessalonians chapter 4 verse 11, a staple of many King's Wild Project deck designs, and the bottom of the box has a silver metallic foil seal denoting the year and month of release. Opening the sideways tuck flap reveals card backs that are reminiscent of the previous deck, although there are some differences. For one, the 1982 deck replaces the blank label of the VHS deck with a filled-in label reading King's Wild Project in simple black handwriting. Jackson actually takes his one-way design a bit further too.
Honestly, I almost missed it at first, but if you have your 1982 deck in new deck order and you thumb through the card, you get a flipbook style animation of the reels spinning and moving the tape from one spool to the other. It's pretty satisfying and clever indeed. However, it's the card faces that take the design up a notch.
All of the card faces feature a prismatic cold foil border that reflects light in a brilliant and very 80s way. Additionally, the pips and indices have been designed to also mimic a metallic finish consistent with the 1980s metal obsession. The backgrounds of the cards here also feature a ghosted graph grid, a popular theme among the decks we'll look at, this time in a reddish gradient. All of the aces feature larger pips with some additional geometric details, and the ace of spades has a very 80s metallic pink King's Wild Project logo type across the pip. The court cards take the motif further by including window blind-esque gradient blocks in various neon colors, and some splatters of bright paint as embellishments for the monochromatic foil illustrations of the King's Wild Project standard court cards. Always a highlight on Jackson Robinson designed decks. The deck also includes a couple of jokers, 5 pointed stars, 1 pink, 1 blue.
We can't talk about the 80s without mentioning the profound effect technology had on the culture of the moment. Video games and graphics in particular had a massive influence on the aesthetics of the time. Whereas now the pixel style sprite design that we see so commonly is a creative choice, in the 80s, 8-bit graphics were the pinnacle of what computers could produce. So what would a standard bicycle rider back deck look like if it were rendered on a Nintendo Entertainment System, for example?
These are the Bicycle 8-bit playing cards by Home Run Games, released as part of a modestly successful Kickstarter in 2017 that includes a few variants. The two standard red and blue editions come packaged in a traditional yet pixelated iteration of what might seem to be a standard bicycle playing cards tug case. The only distinction between the two color variants is the prominent Bullet Bill-esque angry face emblazoned on the spade pip on the blue box. The back of the tugs feature a 1-to-1 representation of an original 8-bit take on the very familiar rider back design that has come to be synonymous with standard playing cards. Hidden within the corners of the design are small pixelated versions of the famous D-pad video game controllers of the Nintendo era.
I spent a lot of time playing video games this week. What? We're social distancing. Anyway, my love of video games goes back to my childhood, of course. My first home system was an Atari 2600 my older cousin handed down to me, and I spent a lot of times playing Asteroids and Space Invaders. But my first true love video game experience was the Super Mario Bros. Game on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Also, there was Mike Tyson's Punch-Out!, Metroid, Legend of Zelda. All of those had a profound effect on me. In fact, let me know what your favorite game from your childhood was in a comment below. Some of the versions of the 8-bit deck pay homage to more specific games, like those I mentioned.
In fact, one of the 8-bit deck's ad cards includes an alternate ace of spades, advertising the gold Legend of Zelda inspired version of the deck. There's a double backer as well, and 2 jokers that include some artwork very reminiscent of Nintendo games. The deck is entirely custom. All of the artwork maintains the retro sprite feel down to the indices and pips. The pips feature a stroked outline in yellow gold that gives them a rudimentary glowing appearance. The ace of spades features a giant spade pip.
Up top, the name of the deck and the code number 808, which references the code number denoting the original bicycle riderback deck as seen on the Jokers, makes an appearance.
The number 808 also holds a particular significance to fans of the music of the 1980s. The Roland TR-808 drum machine is a famous looping sequencer that's responsible for some of the most famous drum loops of the 1980s and really of all time. Check out this video demo by Retro Sound and see for yourself just how recognizable those sounds are.
Perhaps the best part of the 8-bit deck are the court cards. Designed to look like someone applied a Photoshop pixelate filter to the standard bicycle courts, the court cards translate well to the 8-bit motif. The eyes are particularly redrawn to look more cartoonish and more in keeping with the video game art style of the 1980s.
Speaking of music, the sounds of the 80s might just be the most iconic aspect of the era, not just because of Casey Kasem. So many legendary acts and artists came up during the decade. The next deck I'm going to show you pays homage to a bunch of them.
The Decade of Cards, 1980s from Second Marriage Studio and designer Aaron Rommel, is a rare find. In fact, the best way to buy the deck is directly from the artist's Etsy.com store. The deck comes packaged in a vibrant and eclectically designed tuck box that features many patterns and color combinations commonly associated with the decade in question. The front of the box features a representation of the back design, 2 graphical intersecting diamond engagement rings, no doubt an homage to the studio name, that also form the outline of a number 8. The overlapping center of the rings forming an all-seeing eye. The sides of the box feature some very 80s patterns, black dots on a pink field and yellow macaroni shapes against red. The back sees the reuse of the diamond rings, this time with an open eye and one with a closed eye in the other. Opening the deck reveals the artwork transcends onto the cards themselves. Completely custom, these cards feature thin indices and intricate pips that highlight dimensionality with complementary colors. The aces all feature large pips with more detailing, including the ace of spades, which features a red and yellow lightning bolt in the center. The best aspect of this deck, however, are the amazing court cards, a collection of portraits representing some of the 1980s most colorful and famous entertainers, some more obvious than others. The 4 suits each represent a different subset of the culture. The diamonds represent the MCs, DJs, rappers, and hip-hop pioneers. The spades are the rockers. There's no denying the Van Halen and Axl Rose influences. The hearts are the heartthrobs, kings, queens, and princes, no doubt. And the clubs, they represent the club kids, led by Queen Madonna and Grace Jones as king, which is an interesting choice. Rounding out the celebrity impressions are Weird Al Yankovic and Flavor Flav as the 2 Jokers. Because this is an artist-sourced deck, it's not printed by any of the big boy printing companies, and handling suffers a bit as a result. But as a collector's deck designed for fans of the 1980s, it's not really meant for cardistry or magic.
It's hard to imagine when we live in a world overrun with smartphones. In fact, you're probably watching me on one right now. But there was actually a time when you couldn't listen to music on the go. Perhaps no invention of the 1980s revolutionized media more than this one. Well, this is a prop, but the cassette player and the Walkman was a technological marvel of the time. Can you imagine listening to a whole album anywhere you wanted? Well, anyway, the next deck I'm about to show you takes the cassette tape as inspiration for its back design.
This is the bicycle branded Radical 80s deck from designer Ari Steffen. Probably the least interesting tuck case I've shown you. The deck features prominent neon colors against a black field. I'm actually not a fan of the typography on this particular tuck case. Luckily, the cards inside make up for that, as we'll soon see. The back of the box features a 1-to-1 representation of the back design, a subtly one-way image of the now familiar 3D digital grid, something right out of the original Tron, with a center window designed to mimic the silhouette of a cassette tape, down to the toothed reels, the magnetic tape, and the small circular guide holes designed to hold the tape in place when inserted into the player. Included are 2 Jokers, 2 versions of a cassette tape entitled Joker. There's a list of all the tracks included on the side, all card-related puns underneath, which is clever. Included is the United States Playing Card Company ad copy. The Jokers are identical except that on one, the magnetic tape seems to have unspooled and spilled out of the cassette. The faces of the spot cards forego the traditional pips in favor of a large one-way LED-style digital number that denotes the value of each card. The traditional red and black suit colors are replaced with green and blue for the spades and clubs, and pink and purple for the hearts and diamonds. The LED clock-style numbered spot cards, along with the binary 1 and 0 ad cards, represent some interesting possibilities for magicians that harken back to the days of beepers and pagers. Comment below if you remember those days. My favorite aspect of this deck are the phenomenal court cards, which take the traditional bicycle standard court cards and give them all an 80s spin. Headbands and drumsticks, skateboards and sunglasses, bubblegum and Walkmans, boomboxes and mohawks, even Polaroid cameras. My favorite include the blonde mullet Jack of Spades with his Motorola brick phone and the microphoned MC King of Spades. Like all bicycle branded decks printed by the USPCC, these cards handle great as well.
The 80s did a lot to propagate the idea of cliques. Let's see, the 50s had the beatniks, the 60s and the 70s had hippies and yuppies, but the 80s? Well, we had the skaters, the posers, the jocks, the nerds, the geeks, the freaks, the goths, the rockers. Am I missing any? In fact, one of my favorite filmmakers of all time, John Hughes, made a career out of exploiting the hijinks that could ensue when you put a bunch of kids from different groups in the same room together. Who doesn't love The Breakfast Club? 80s movies hold a special place in my heart, as I'm sure they do for you. In fact, which were your favorite 80s movies? Comment below. The next deck I'm going to show you not only borrows a lot from those 80s flicks, but it actually hasn't technically been released yet.
These are the Nerds and Jocks playing cards from Mike Doc Wilson and designer Randy Butterfield's Midnight Playing Cards, currently an ongoing Kickstarter campaign running through the 3rd of May 2020. The version I'm previewing here are prototypes and were sent to me by Randy and didn't include tuck boxes. However, there are images of what those will look like on the Kickstarter page. These cards come in two versions, as the title of the deck implies, Jocks and Nerds. The Nerds deck features a pocket protector motif that would be right at home in an 80s inspired movie like Revenge of the Nerds. The Jocks deck is of course based on the Letterman sports jacket with a large monogram M that doubles for both the M in Mike Wilson and Midnight Playing Cards. The faces of the cards are completely custom, although pip placement is standard and the pips themselves include some small embellishments that further the nerd versus jock motif. The red suits include football laces within the diamonds and a goalpost within the hearts. The black suits representing the nerds include a floppy disk within the spades and 3 D12 dice within the club pip, dice commonly used to play Dungeons & Dragons style role-playing games. The aces all feature larger pips with additional detail. The star of the show are, of course, the court cards, which feature cleverly modified standard bicycle court royalty with some very 80s accessories. Some of my favorites include the Olivia Newton-John fan Queen of Diamonds, headgear wearing nerdy Queen of the Computer Clubs, the very dorky King of Spades, the poof vest Rubik's Cuber Jack of Clubs with the bra on his head, and the homecoming King and Queen of Hearts. The Jokers include a nerd jester and a jock one as well, furthering the motif. Because this is a prototype deck, handling isn't great, however I'm sure the final decks will be of premium quality. The campaign has still not reached its goal, so if you're interested in becoming a backer, be sure to check out the Nerd and Jocks decks on Kickstarter.
For the time being, I'm actually giving away my sealed prototype nerd deck to one lucky winner. I've hidden some instructions in this video on finding a secret phrase. Those of you with keen eyes and good attention to detail will surely find it. There you have it. Hope you enjoyed this little jaunt through the 80s. Let me know if you did. Congratulations to Farouk Jamal, winner of the Room 17 deck of playing cards by Stockholm 17. Contact me, Farouk, to claim your prize. Although there may be a slight delay in getting prizes out during the current global situation. for obvious reasons. There are a bunch of prizes I've yet to announce winners for. Those are coming soon. In the meantime, please stay safe. To check out another video, click here, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And a warm thank you to my amazing wife for her tremendous comedic skills. If you want to see more of her brilliant videos, click here. Thank you so much for watching. I've been the Gentleman Wake. See you next time.